What's up, everyone, and welcome. In this episode, we're going to talk about the FBI, CISA, and the U.S. Coast Guard Cyber Command warning of state-backed app groups actively attacking the Zoho bug. We'll review the news report and see what we can learn from this incident to secure our own system. So make sure you stick around to the end. Smiley face.
Oh, drat these computers. They're so naughty and so complex. I could pinch them.
The FBI, CISA, and the U.S. Coast Guard Cyber Command, also known as CGCYBER, warned today that state-backed Advanced Persistent Threat, or APT, actors are likely among those who've been actively exploiting a newly identified bug in a Zoho single sign-on and password management tool since early last month. At issue is a critical authentication bypass vulnerability in Zoho ManageEngine ADSelfService Plus platform that can lead to remote code execution and thus open the corporate doors to attackers who can then run amok with free rein access across users' Active Directory and cloud accounts. The Zoho ManageEngine ADSelfService Plus is a self-service password management and single sign-on platform for Active Directory and cloud apps, meaning that any cyber attacker able to gain control of the platform would have multiple pivot points into both mission-critical apps and those apps-sensitive data, as well as other parts of the corporate network via Active Directory. It is, in other words, a powerful, highly privileged application which can act as a convenient point of entry to areas deep inside the enterprise's footprint for both users and attackers alike. Last Tuesday, Zoho issued a patch, Zoho ManageEngine ADSelfService Plus Build 6114, for the flaw, which is tracked as CVE 2021-40539 with a 9.8 severity rating. As the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency warned at the time, it was being actively exploited in the wild as a zero-day. According to the joint advisory from the three government cybersecurity arms, again FBI, CISA, and CGCYBER, the exploits pose a serious risk to critical infrastructure companies. This is U.S. cleared defense contractors, academic institutions, and other entities that use the software. You can see why successful exploitation of a linchpin piece of security like a single sign-on and password handler could lay out a mat, or a welcome mat, for adversaries. Specifically, as the advisory iterated, an adversary could use the vulnerability to pry open security defenses in order to compromise admin credentials, move laterally through the network, and exfiltrate registry hives and Active Directory files. That's of concern to any business, but with Zoho, we're talking about a security solution that's used by critical infrastructure companies, again, U.S. cleared defense contractors, and academic institutions, among others. The joint advisory said that app groups have in fact targeted such entities in multiple industries, including transportation, IT, manufacturing, communications, logistics, and finance. Illicitly obtained access and information may disrupt company operations and subvert U.S. research in multiple sectors, the advisory noted. Successful exploitation of the vulnerability allows an attacker to place web shells which enable the adversary to conduct post-exploitation activities such as compromising administrator credentials, conducting lateral movement, and exfiltrating registry hives and Active Directory files. Successful attacks have been uploading a .zip file containing a Java Server Pages, or JSP, web shell accessible at help admin guide reports report generate.jsp, and it's pretending to be an X509 certificate service.sir. Next come requests to different API endpoints to further exploit the targeted system. The next step in the exploit is lateral movement using Windows Management Instrumentation, gaining access to a domain controller, dumping of ntds.dit and security system registry hives, and then from there, further compromised access. Confirming a successful compromise of ManageEngine ADSelfService Plus may be difficult, the security agencies advised, given that the attackers are running cleanup scripts designed to rub out their tracks by removing traces of their initial point of compromise and by obscuring any relationship between the exploitation of CVE 2021-40539 and the web shell they just dropped on the system. The advisory provided a laundry list of tactics, techniques, and processes being used by threat actors to exploit the vulnerability. These include WMI for lateral movement and remote code execution, using plain text credentials acquired from compromised ADSelfService Plus hosts, using pgdump to dump ManageEngine databases, dumping NTDS and .dit and security system net user registry hives, exfiltration through web shells, post-exploitation activity conducted with compromised US infrastructure, and deleting specific filtered log lines. Organizations that detect indicators of compromise around the ManageEngine ADSelfService Plus installation should take action immediately, the trio of agencies instructed. FBI, CISA, and CGCYBER strongly urge users and administrators to update to ADSelfService Plus build 6114, the trio stated. They also strongly urged organizations to keep ADSelfService Plus away from direct access via the internet. Jake Williams, co-founder and CTO at incident response firm BreachQuest, said that organizations should take note of the fact that threat actors have been using web shells as a post-exploitation payload. In the case of the exploitation of this Zoho flaw, they're using web shells disguised as certificates, something that security teams should be able to pick up in their web server logs, but only if organizations have a plan for this detection of this kind of malicious activity. Finding a critical vulnerability in the system intended to help your employees manage and reset their passwords is exactly as bad as it sounds, noted Oliver Tavakoli, CTO at cybersecurity firm Vectra. Even if the ADSelfService Plus server was not accessible from the internet, it would be accessible from any compromised laptop. Recovery will be expensive. Domain-wide password resets and double Kerberos ticket-granting password resets are certainly disruptive by themselves, and the app groups may have established other means of persistence in the intervening time. This ManageEngine vulnerability is the 5th instance of similarly critical vulnerabilities for ManageEngine this year, noted Sean Nichols, senior cyber threat intel analyst at digital risk protection provider Digital Shadows. Unfortunately, but predictably, given how much access attackers can get out of exploiting a vulnerability like this, we can likely expect more widespread exploitation of this and previous bugs, given the interactivity with Microsoft system processes. Nickel continued with yet another gloomy prediction. The observation that apt groups are actively exploiting CVE 2021-405-9 should highlight the potential exposure it might cause. If trends are consistent, extortion groups will likely seek exploitation for ransomware activity in the not-so-distant future. All of which points to what CISA and other agencies and people like myself have been urging about these vulnerabilities, namely, patch fast. Users of Zoho's software should apply patches immediately to avoid types of compromise described in the CISA bulletin. So, what did we learn? Malicious hackers are opportunistic. This vulnerability was exploited as a 0-day, and even after a patch was pushed out last Tuesday, hackers know that most organizations either press for time or they put it off. So it's not being these patches are not being deployed immediately. So they'll just dump the 0-day and move on to the next one. They're going to suck every ounce of blood out of this until they either find another one or this one no longer works. What else did we learn? Critical vulnerabilities need to be patched immediately, or affected systems need to be armored with more intense security measures to ensure the system cannot be attacked until a patch can be deployed. Now, this could include taking the system offline, or disabling RDP, or disabling SSH, or so that these are only accessible from known networks or not accessible at all from outside the network, or you could implement a password protected proxy in front of the web interface so that only authenticated users can then even access the web interface. Now, I know there's some APIs out there and people can say, well, you can't really password protect that, but there are ways to pass a token to the proxy processes the token. Upon success, it then passes it through to the proxified application, the entire query string. So you could do a ton of things there to further protect these applications. What else did we learn? We need more stringent rules for things like file uploads, as well as we need antivirus and anti-malware scanning our systems on a regular basis. Now, there has been some discussion on various forums where people say you don't need an antivirus and an anti-malware on servers. I get this question all the time. I say you do. Now, I know it's not going to catch everything, but nothing is. The more tools I gathered together and can use on my systems, the fewer attackers can gain access. Now, if you haven't seen my episode on setting up ClamAV on servers, here's a link above to that episode, and I have pinned it in the comment section below. Script kiddies, using off-the-shelf malware and viruses, in most cases will be caught by our antivirus and anti-malware server, as well as other security measures, leaving only the best of the best to even have a chance to access our systems. If you add to that the other security measures we implement, like disabling SSH or RDP if it's not needed, and you have physical access to the machines to re-enable it, of course, or putting a password-protected proxy in front of our web interfaces where applicable, wherever possible, it reduces the window from, let's say, a storefront size window for anybody to smash through to hopefully down to a peephole size window. Now, this small window still exists because of vulnerabilities like this, the Zoho vulnerability. So, again, patch critical vulnerabilities ASAP to reduce that small window to an even smaller pinhole window. Again, critical services like this should have some added security mechanism in front of their web interface. Either, again, a password-protected NGINX proxy or some secret token that's protected, that's passed through in the query string to protect it, or some other mechanism that can ensure only valid calls to the service or the web interface are allowed. With that, I say thanks again for watching. Don't forget to share and subscribe if you haven't already, and smash the bell if you haven't already. And I will see you on the next episode. Take care.